The key didn't work. I stood on the porch of my childhood home, twisting the brass key my grandmother had given me years ago, but the lock just clicked uselessly. Through the frosted glass, I saw shadows moving inside, voices I didn't recognize, furniture that wasn't ours. My chest tightened. I knocked, confused, my breath clouding in the December air. A woman opened the door, mid-40s, with kind eyes but cautious. "Can I help you?" she asked. Behind her, I saw the wallpaper my grandmother had chosen, now half stripped. "I'm Harper," I said, voice shaking. "This is my house." Her expression shifted, something like pity crossing her face. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "Your parents sold it 3 weeks ago. The closing was yesterday." The world tilted. Sold? 3 weeks? They hadn't even called. A hollow, dry laugh escaped me. Not funny, just impossible to process. The woman stepped back, uncertain. I turned away before she could see my face crumble, walking back to my car as snow started falling, each flake cold and silent against my skin. My name is Harper Quinn. I'm 29, an architectural designer who spent her childhood in that yellow house at the end of Maple Lane. My parents were always busy, always somewhere else. My grandmother was the one who raised me. She taught me how to sketch blueprints on napkins, how to fix a squeaky hinge, and how to make a house feel like home. When she died 2 years ago, she left the house to my parents in her will, with one clear instruction written in the margins: hold it for Harper. They'd promised. "One day it'll be yours, sweetheart," my mother had said at the funeral, squeezing my hand. I believed her. I'd been saving money, planning to buy it from them when I was ready. Every holiday, I came back and fixed things, small repairs, painted rooms, keeping it alive. But I lived 3 hours away in the city, working long hours, building my career. Apparently, that was all the excuse they needed. I called my mother from the car, hands shaking. She picked up on the 4th ring. "Harper, what's wrong?" "You sold the house," I whispered. Silence. Then, almost irritated, "We were going to tell you." "When?" I asked, gripping the steering wheel. My mother sighed like I was being dramatic. "Harper, we needed the money. You're always so busy with work. We didn't think you'd actually care." Didn't think I'd care? About the only home I'd ever loved? About the place my grandmother built with her own hands? My father's voice cut in from the background, sharp and dismissive. "Stop being childish, Harper. It's just a house. You can design your own someday." Just a house? The words burned through me like acid. "You promised," I said quietly. "Promises change," my mother replied. "We're your parents. You'll understand when you're older." I was 29. She hung up before I could respond. I sat in that parking lot for an hour, staring at the house through the snow. Strangers moved behind the windows. My grandmother's porch swing was gone. I wanted to scream, to cry, to break something. Instead, I just sat there, numb and cold, wondering how the people who were supposed to protect me could hurt me so deeply and call it practical. I didn't leave town that night. I checked into a small motel near the highway, the kind with thin walls and a flickering neon sign. Sleep didn't come. I kept seeing my grandmother's face, hearing her voice. "This house is yours, Harper. Don't let anyone tell you differently." But I had. I'd trusted my parents, and now I had nothing. By morning, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry to them. But I wasn't walking away either. I drove back to Maple Lane just as the sun rose, casting gold across the snow. The new owner was on the porch, sweeping salt off the steps. She looked up when my car pulled in, wary but not unkind. I got out slowly, hands in my coat pockets. "I'm sorry about yesterday," I said. "I didn't mean to make it weird." She leaned the broom against the railing. "It's not weird, it's sad." Her name was Mara Clements. She invited me in for coffee. I almost said no, but something in her eyes stopped me. She knew something. I could feel it. Inside, the house smelled differently. Fresh paint, lemon cleaner, all the warmth scrubbed away. But the bones were the same. The creaky third step, the window seat my grandmother built. Mara poured coffee into 2 mismatched mugs and sat across from me at the small kitchen table. "I knew your grandmother," she said quietly. I looked up, surprised. "You did?" She nodded. "I lived 2 streets over when I was younger. She used to let me sit on her porch when my parents fought. She was kind." My throat tightened. She was. Mara took a slow sip of coffee, eyes distant. "I left town for years. When I came back last month, I saw that this place was for sale. It felt like fate." She paused, meeting my gaze. "Your parents told the realtor you didn't want it, that you'd moved on." Rage flickered through me, quick and hot. "They lied. I know," Mara said. She stood, walked to a drawer, and pulled out a folder. "I think you should see this." She slid it across the table. Inside was the deed, and buried in the fine print was a clause I'd never seen before, my grandmother's signature. A condition. My heart started pounding. The clause was small, almost hidden at the bottom of page 3. Transfer of property valid only with the written consent of the direct descendant, Harper Quinn. I read it 3 times, my pulse roaring in my ears. "Does this mean what I think it means?" I whispered. Mara leaned back, arms crossed, a faint smile on her lips. "It means your parents needed your signature to sell, and if they didn't get it, the sale can be reversed." I couldn't breathe. My grandmother had protected me, even from beyond the grave. She'd known. She'd always known what kind of people my parents were. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, suspicious. Mara's expression softened. "Because I watched your parents ignore you your whole childhood. I saw how much she loved you, and I'm not about to let them erase that." For the first time in weeks, something like hope sparked in my chest. But I didn't let it show. Not yet. "What do I do?" Mara slid a business card across the table. A lawyer's name. "You fight back. Quietly." I didn't go to the lawyer right away. I needed to be smart. My parents couldn't know what I was planning. So I played along. I sent my mother a text that night. "I'm sorry for overreacting. I understand why you did it." She replied within minutes. "I'm glad you're being mature about this, honey." Mature? I almost laughed. Not funny. Over the next 2 weeks, I stayed in town, helping Mara with small repairs around the house. I told my parents I was taking time off, healing, moving on. They believed me. Why wouldn't they? I'd always been the easy one, the one who didn't make waves. But while I painted walls and fixed cabinet hinges, I was also documenting everything. Every text message where they admitted to selling the house, every voicemail, every smug comment about their smart investment. I made copies of the deed, the sale contract, and the clause. I photographed everything. And all the while, my parents posted pictures online. My mother is in a new car. My father at a beach condo they'd just bought with the house money. "Finally free of that old dump," his caption read. Good. Let them brag. Arrogance makes people careless. Mara and I grew close during those weeks. She was quiet, thoughtful, the kind of person who listened more than she spoke. One evening, while we were pulling up old carpet in the hallway, She stopped suddenly, staring at a loose floorboard. "What's wrong?" I asked. She pried it up carefully. Underneath was a small metal box, dusty and dented. My heart skipped. Inside was an envelope, yellowed with age, addressed in my grandmother's handwriting. "For Harper, when they try to take what's yours." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a notarized letter dated 3 years ago, affirming that the house was meant for me, that if my parents ever tried to sell it without my consent, the proceeds would default to me by law. Tears blurred my vision. She'd known. She'd prepared for this. Mara watched me quietly, then said, "She loved you more than anything, Harper. Don't let them win." I wiped my eyes and nodded. "I won't." That night, I finally called the lawyer. It was time to stop hiding and start fighting. The lawyer's name was Mr. Brennan, a silver-haired man with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense tone. I sat in his office with the folder of documents spread across his desk. He read through everything slowly, methodically, occasionally making notes. Finally, he looked up. "This is airtight," he said. "Your parents violated the terms of the inheritance. The sale can be voided." Relief and rage tangled in my chest. "How long will it take?" "A few weeks, maybe a month. We'll file a motion to reverse the transaction based on the consent clause. Your parents will be notified." I thought about that, about the moment they'd received the letter, the shock, the panic. Part of me wanted to see their faces, but a bigger part of me wanted to stay silent and let the truth hit them like a freight train. "Do it," I said. Mr. Brennan nodded. "One more thing. If this goes through, you'll own the house outright, but your parents will likely lose the money they already spent." I met his eyes. "Good." He smiled faintly. "I'll file the paperwork today." I left his office feeling lighter than I had in months. The trap was set. Now, I just had to wait. 2 weeks later, the certified letter arrived at my parents' house. I wasn't there to see it, but my mother called me within an hour, her voice shrill and frantic. "Harper, what did you do?" I kept my tone calm, almost sweet. "What do you mean, Mom?" "A lawyer sent us a letter, something about the house sale being illegal. Did you do this?" "You sold my house without my permission?" I said quietly. "So yes, I did this." She exploded. "You ungrateful little brat. After everything we've done for you, we raised you, fed you, gave you everything." "Grandma raised me," I said. "You were never there." My father grabbed the phone. "Harper, this is ridiculous. We'll fight this. You won't win." "I already have," I replied. Then I hung up. For the first time in my life, I'd stood up to them, and it felt like breathing after being underwater for years. Mara was waiting when I got back to the house. She didn't ask how it went. She just handed me a cup of tea and sat beside me on the porch. We didn't need words. The silence said enough. The legal process moved quickly. My parents tried to fight it, hired their own lawyer, sent angry emails, and threatened to cut me off completely. But the clause was ironclad. Within 3 weeks, the court ruled in my favor. The sale was voided. The house reverted to me. The title arrived in the mail on a Tuesday morning. I opened the envelope slowly, hands trembling. There it was. My name. Harper Quinn, legal owner. I sat on the porch steps and cried. Not sad tears, relief, victory, grief for all the years I'd spent trying to earn love that was never really there. Mara found me there an hour later. She didn't say anything, just sat beside me, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder. "You did it," she whispered. I nodded, wiping my eyes. "Yeah, I did." But the victory felt strange, hollow in some ways, because winning meant losing my parents completely. They'd made their choice, and I'd made mine. That evening, Mara and I toasted with cheap wine on the porch, watching the sunset over Maple Lane. The house was mine. But more than that, I was finally free. My parents didn't take the loss well. My mother showed up at the house a week later, pounding on the door, her face red and tear-streaked. I watched her through the window for a long moment before opening it. "What do you want?" I asked. She looked smaller somehow, desperate. "Harper, please, we made a mistake. We didn't understand how much this place meant to you." "You did understand," I said quietly. "You just didn't care." She reached for my hand. I stepped back. "We'll pay you for it," she said quickly. "Whatever you want, just give it back." I almost laughed. "You can't buy back what you threw away, Mom." Her face crumpled. My father stood behind her, silent and stiff. He wouldn't even look at me. "Harper, we're your parents," my mother whispered. "Doesn't that mean anything?" I thought about that. About all the birthdays they missed, the school events they skipped, the way they handed me off to my grandmother like I was an inconvenient. "It used to," I said. Then I closed the door. Through the glass, I watched her sink onto the porch steps, sobbing. My father put a hand on her shoulder. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt peace. Spring came slowly that year. Mara and I spent weeks restoring the house, repainting the shutters the soft yellow my grandmother loved, replanting the garden, and fixing the porch swing. It felt like bringing something back to life. But Mara was getting weaker. She didn't say anything at first, but I noticed. The way she'd sit down more often, the weight she was losing. One evening, while we were painting the kitchen, she finally told me. "I have cancer, Harper," she said quietly. "Stage 4. I've known for a while." My brush froze mid-stroke. "How long?" 6 months. Maybe less. I set the brush down, my hands shaking. "Why didn't you tell me?" She smiled faintly. "Because I didn't want you to treat me differently. I wanted to help you save this place. That's all I needed." Tears burned my eyes. "Mara, you saved me." She shook her head. "No, sweetheart. You saved yourself. I just gave you a push." We sat together on the floor, backs against the wall, and I held her hand. We didn't talk. We didn't need to. The house creaked softly around us, like it was listening. Mara passed away on a quiet Tuesday in late April. The funeral was small, just a handful of neighbors and me. I stood up at the front, reading a letter she'd left me. "Harper, home isn't where you're born. It's where you finally stop apologizing for existing. Thank you for letting me be part of yours." I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my pocket. After the service, I drove back to Maple Lane. The house was silent, but it didn't feel empty. It felt full. Full of memories, of love, of the women who'd fought to protect it. I planted a cherry tree in the front yard that afternoon, pressing the soil down with my hands. As I stood, wiping dirt from my palms, I felt the house settle around me. Not sad, just home. A few days later, I received a package. Inside was a single brass key and a note in Mara's handwriting. "For when you're ready to let someone else in." I held the key up to the light, smiling through tears. She'd thought of everything. Even the ending I didn't know I needed. 6 months later, I stood on the porch with a cup of coffee, watching the cherry tree bloom for the first time. Pink petals drifted across the yard, soft and bright against the morning sky. My parents never came back. I heard through distant relatives that they'd lost the condo, that the money they'd spent was gone. I didn't feel sorry for them. I didn't feel anything at all. The house had been repainted, restored, and filled with new memories. My grandmother would have loved it. Mara would have smiled. And me? I finally understood what home meant. Not a place your family gives you, but a place you fight to build, protect, and fill with the people who truly see you. I raised my coffee mug toward the cherry tree. "Thank you," I whispered. The wind picked up, scattering petals across the porch. And somewhere, I swear, I heard my grandmother laugh. I was home, and this time, no one could take it away. Here's my question for you. Would you have given your parents a second chance, or did I do the right thing by closing that door forever? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories where the underdog wins, hit that subscribe button. Justice tastes sweeter when we witness it together.